Do you sometimes find that normal, everyday tasks seem insurmountable? Do you struggle to do the seemingly simplest things? If you struggle similarly, you might be experiencing executive dysfunction. Stay tuned because that's what we're talking about today. Hello and welcome to Life Divergent. I'm Trina.
And I'm Jason. Before we get started, please note or please remember we are not doctors or licensed medical professionals. Please do not use this as a substitute for professional medical advice. You have doctors for that. Go see them.
Yeah, do that. So, what is executive dysfunction? Basically, it's a disruption in the brain's managerial system. It messes with your ability to plan, to organize, to initiate tasks, to manage your time, and to regulate emotions. It can really make daily tasks feel incredibly overwhelming. It's a fundamental issue with your brain's wiring and cognitive control. It's not a sign of laziness or a lack of intelligence. And it's really, really important to remember that part. But basically, it's your housekeeping system.
So, we're going to talk about how executive function triggers self judgment and how you can step out of that loop by being kind to yourself. Now, we know it's not as easy as flipping a switch, so stick around until the end to hear a few methods that have worked for others.
All right. So it's important to remember that, as we've already said, it's not a character flaw, but it is a very painful cycle.
When you struggle to start or finish tasks, your brain can misinterpret that struggle as a flaw. And that self judgment spikes stress. The stress shuts down the exact regions of your brain that you need for planning and initiation, which makes the tasks even harder.
Right. I think that it's important to remember that, as we've said before, it's not about self worth. So we have to really break the cycle that requires us to separate our self worth from productivity. Excuse me. And looking at how we can calm our nervous system in the first place to get past that. So,
So, of this feedback loop, there are three stages. First is task paralysis. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
okay, so task paralysis, which I experience on a regular basis, is when your brain gets flooded by processing the steps of the task that you need to complete. So it's almost like it leads to an avoidance of the physical part of doing it's like you freeze. I've experienced that a lot in my life. Um, it's really like a paralysis. Like you cannot make yourself do it, and part of it has to do with the way that you internalize after that as well.
And because the world works on productivity, it's hard not to internalize the lack of that. So, instead of recognizing that maybe your system's just overloaded, you can't help but tell yourself that, oh, I'm lazy or I'm broken. And that struggle becomes part of your identity, which is a sad and unfortunate truth. Now,
Yeah.
that will threaten your nervous system.
Yeah. I think that not only do you experience self judgment, but people in general think that the inability to tidy up or self care or whatever, like they really link these things with a moral judgment. And so, of course, it's only natural that you're going to judge yourself by the same standards. So, um, the way that your nervous system sees this is as a threat that your harsh self judgment can register as danger, and then it really locks down your executive functioning behind a wall of severe overwhelm. Really, excuse me, but that self judgment is a stress signal.
Yeah, and that stress does exacerbate the problem, unfortunately. Stress can and does narrow your attention, reduces your access to the part of your brain that is responsible for planning.
Right.
Yeah, and that creates shame and self-criticism, which amplifies the stress response even further.
Yeah, it's kind of a cyclical thing. So because your body interprets this as a threat, it looks at it like it's an external threat, even though it's coming from the inside. And the initiation becomes physiological harder. And so because you're struggling to do the thing, it's just confirming your harsh stories that you've already been telling yourself. And so it's very cyclical and it's difficult to break free.
So we need to find ways to interrupt that narrative you built for yourself before we attempt the task. It's really
Right.
critical to do that. You can't experience stress and then reason your way out of it. You tell yourself that the stress isn't logical, that doesn't just make it go away. It's not like you all of a sudden say,
No.
oh, I didn't realize it wasn't logical. Let's just stop being stressed.
Yeah.
Who works that way? So we need to soften the threat so that the part of your brain that you need to use can come back online.
Right. So one of the best ways to do this is to calm your nervous system before trying to do anything so that you really need to regulate yourself before you can move forward. So what I have found in my life that's helpful, I just kind of started doing it one day, is hi kitty kitty, is to think about the thing that I need to do. Now, if I normally, the way I used to do things, I would just stress about the thing and, tell myself that I needed to do it and couldn't do it. So I'd just stress and it would just make it worse and worse and worse. But now what I have done or what I do is I set a time for myself. Like if it's noon and I'm like, okay, I need to go to the grocery store, what I'll do is I'll say to myself, okay, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go to the grocery store so that I'm not sitting there for the next hour stressing out about needing to go to the grocery store and all the steps that it's going to take for me to do that. So now I have that hour of leisurely time to do whatever I want. And then at 1 o'clock, I just get up and I go do it. Of course, I'm medicated, so that helps as well. But medication isn't the end all be all. It's just a tool. Just like the way that I plan out a time to do things now. Like if I need to take a shower, I'll give myself like 30-minute lead time. All right, at 2:30, I'm going to go take my shower. And I have found that really helps me to regulate and stops me from overthinking it and stressing out about things.
And for me, that isn't what helps.
No.
So yeah, I'll run into challenges with setting a specific time because I struggle to start any tasks in between then because I know that tasks can sometimes run long. And if all of a sudden I'm trying to do something at 1 and it's 1 at 1:10, then it's like I missed my start time, so I don't want to do it. Now that's just me, that's not everyone. I'm not attempting to contradict as much as saying that not every approach is going to work for everybody.
Right.
The one that does work for me is using tasks instead of time. So if my goal is to go to the store, it's like, okay, well, when I've done the thing I'm currently doing, then I'll go to the store, regardless of how long the first thing takes. Just make sure I get to a stopping point, and then when I do that, I do the next thing. And that's my task order, not necessarily restricted by time. So,
But that's keeping you from overthinking the thing that you need to do because you're already engaged in a task.
so different methods for different people.
Right.
Consider some of the things we're about to review, and find a method that works for you.
Yeah. So,
Ideally with the help of a mental health professional.
right, of course. So, the things that we've been talking about and that we're going to talk about, I think a very important thing to take away from this and to remember throughout all of this is that if you don't get something done today, it's not a judgment of who you are. You just keep reminding yourself that, your brain wiring is different than other people. And it's not a self-worth thing. It's just the way that it is. So you just have to work toward finding things that can help you navigate your way through. So we're going to discuss 3 small things that can help you to calm your nervous system and separate your self-worth from your productivity.
Yeah. First thing you can do, if you're in the middle of a task if you're trying to start a task and it's a lot and you don't know how to just process all of it because there's so many things involved, just step away. Give yourself like 10 to 15 minutes to regulate. No expectation of progress, just to yourself, understand what's going on.
Right.
Let your mind stop stressing to an extent because you don't have the project or whatever it is right in front of you anymore.
Right. I think that this is a kind of a macro kind of sort of what I do when I set a time for myself. Because this does a similar thing by allowing you to regulate without the stress of the task, which can be very, very helpful. Another thing that I think is helpful and another thing that you can try that might work for you is to, challenge your inner critic. Tell yourself that your executive functioning isn't a character flaw. It's a system that just needs different structures, and just keep reminding yourself of that. I'm not a bad person. I just need to find a way that works for me to kind of navigate the different wiring that is my brain.
Yeah, remind yourself that you're not broken. This isn't about something being wrong with you, like you're somehow inferior to the rest of the world. That's not. It's not so black and white, not so linear. There's
Right.
a lot. There's a reason why a lot of these things are called a spectrum. So the idea that your mind works perhaps differently different isn't bad. It's just different.
Right.
Just another thing to get used to, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying about challenging the inner critic is something that you can do when you take those 10 to 15 minutes away from the task. Step away from the task. Take some of that time to challenge that inner critic. Remind yourself that you're not flawed or a failure or whatever you tell yourself. And then when you do return to your task, aim for the smallest, microest step. So you don't sit there and say, I got to write this essay. You start by opening the Word document, putting the title on it. Say, all right, I've done this, taken 2 steps out of the way. Another example, don't clean the kitchen. Put maybe 2 forks in the dishwasher. Like that's where you're starting. And then you do that. Great, 2 forks in the dishwasher. I can see the progress I'm making. The micro progress is still progress. And it will be easier to flow from there into the next microest step.
That makes sense. If you, instead of looking at it, like you said, instead of seeing, oh, I need to clean the kitchen, it's like, oh, I need to load the dishwasher or unload the dishwasher first. Okay, so you do that task, and that's like a little victory. So you have completed something and you feel good about it. So it, I guess, makes it easier to move on to like the next task, which might be loading the dishwasher. And then again, you're setting yourself up for little victories along the way, and you're just breaking it into different steps so that it's not, I need to clean the kitchen, which can be very overwhelming. Rather, break it into small steps, because then it's a lot more doable that way, I think. And the other thing is, if you don't finish everything, that's okay. Instead of focusing on what you didn't finish, what parts of cleaning the kitchen you didn't accomplish, rather look at what you did complete and what you did accomplish. So this can really help your self-worth in that way, look at the victories instead of the, I don't want to say failures because I don't consider them to be failures, but, you know, just look at what you did complete instead of what you didn't.
Yeah, any progress is better than no progress.
Correct.
So a micro completion is a completion.
Correct. All right.
I talk to people about that when it concerns exercise, because you might think of exercise as, man, I got to go to the gym for like an hour. I got to do that X number of times a week. That's 4 hours, 5 hours out of my week. That's a lot of time. I got things to do. It's like, well, even if you just go for a walk for like 5 minutes, that's 5 more minutes of walking than you were going to do. So 5 minutes is not an hour, but it's better than 0 minutes. 5 minutes is easy to push to 10 minutes, easy to push to 15 once you've built the habit. But another example of micro steps, how something is better than nothing.
Right. I think that, there are other things, other ways of, approaching these steps. But the important thing is to, find something that works for you. To, like I said, I set a time for myself to start something. That way it puts it out of my head until it's time to do it. Because part of my biggest problem is that I sit and think about it and stress about it the whole time until I actually do it, unless I set a time for myself. And that way, again, I allow myself to return to like a regulated place, so that when I get ready to go do it, I just can go do it because I haven't sat and overthought it and stressed about it and all of that in the meantime. Now, that might not work for you. So that's why we gave you a couple of other examples. But, you don't have to do exactly the things that we've said. Just find a way to incorporate these tactics into something that works for you. So that it's more doable, it's more manageable. And a lot of times, if you take ideas and tailor them to your own life or your own time frame or your own space, if you make it your own, it makes it more doable because you thought of it, you came up with it, and it's something that you decided was going to work for you. I don't know if that made sense, but I hope so.
If you have ideas that have worked for you, feel free to leave them in the comments if you're listening or watching this on some medium that has the ability to leave comments.
Right.
And as we've said in one of these previous casts, you can look into online communities, people who have had similar challenges. So you can get a whole world of steps that have worked for people and find some that work for you while you are looking for a mental health professional who can find you the best approach for you.
Right. And there are apps out there that can help you with body doubling, so that you log in and you join a community of people who also struggle to do tasks, and so that you're doing things at the same time as other people. And I don't know why body doubling helps, why it works, but I mean, it helps me sometimes as well. If I have someone to talk to while I'm doing something, I don't even necessarily need their help. But if they're sitting there and even if I'm not talking to them, but I typically will because that's what I do. But like if I have my daughter come and sit with me while I'm doing the dishes, for example, and I've talked about this before, it's almost like while we're having the conversation, it's distracting me from the task that I'm doing, which is very helpful because I'm doing something else at the same time. So it takes my mind away from the fact that I'm doing the dishes or cleaning the kitchen, and I'm not stressing about the steps because I'm focused on the conversation.
It's easier to do things if you have someone to do it with, someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why people find it easier to, I know that I default to this example a lot, but they'll find it easier to go to the gym if they have someone they're exercising with. That's one of the
Right.
successes or values of a personal fitness trainer. Even once you've learned how to exercise, people will stay people will still pay for a trainer because it's someone who will motivate you, someone you can do this with. Get that doubled body, get the partner, get the accountability partner, and you will find greater success in most things.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's all I have to say about that.
yeah, me too. So it's just, again, there are ideas out there. And as Jason said, consult your medical professional, your therapist, or whatever that can help you through these things and make sure that you make a point of having a conversation about it, if it's something that you struggle with. Because therapists are typically qualified, hopefully, to help you through these things. And I guess if you take only one thing away from today, just remember that if you struggle to do these things, um, you're not broken, you're not lazy. Um, your system just works differently. And so, because your system works differently, you're going to need different systems that help you navigate your system in a way that isn't going to necessarily work for the neurotypical community. Yeah.
Good job.
Why, thank you.
I didn't know what else to say.
That works.
Okay.
Okay, so the next episode, we are going to be talking about the grief of a late diagnosis. We hope you'll join us then. In the meantime, be well.
Goodbye.
Bye.